Hello and welcome to episode 10 of compilation 1 of English Chinese characters. Let's just get right into it today. The first character you're going to learn is the character for mom, and this is how you draw it. And if you look on the left side, that's a radical with which you should be well acquainted. It's the radical for woman. And the part on the right is actually a horse. I guess women ride horses. Women look like horses. Really, the reason for that in Chinese is because the word for mom sounds just like horse. I mean, that's probably the only Chinese anyone would know. So that's mom, and the next character we're going to learn is the character for dad. Dad has a different radical, so let's see if you can try and find that radical and guess what it is. So the part that has like two eyes and then a crisscrossing beard on the top, that's actually the radical for father. So, of course, dad has a father radical in it. So just note that the words for father and mother in English Chinese characters, will not have these characters. These characters are specific to mom and dad. Very good. The next two words we're going to learn are the words for buy and sell. So here's buy, and this is how you draw it. Now, other than that line on the top, the rest of it actually means head. So you can think of it like you're buying a head of lettuce. Or what I'd suggest is to just picture yourself there. You are a person, and maybe those two dots are like the cash you're holding out. Right? So there's you, your head, with your cash. And that line could be a counter. Right? You're buying something over the counter. So very good, that's buy. And the next character we're learning is the character for sell. And this is how you draw it. And you'll notice it's very, very similar to buy. It just has a little more complexity. I like to think of it this way. So buying, you can buy something from a machine, from a robot, right? It's you don't need another human there. But usually if you're selling something, you're definitely gonna have another human there, right? So you can think of it like, you're selling something to another person, so there's a bigger, it looks kind of like a person, right? Like their arms are held out. So that's how you can distinguish between the two. So very good. Here's our first sentence. Can you read it? It says, my mom buys a book. My mom buys a book. Very good. Here's the next sentence. My dad sells pens. My dad sells pens. Here's the next character we're learning, and it has a radical that you should know. The part on the bottom is an I radical, because this character means look. And the next character we're learning is the character for at. And this is how you draw it. You'll see that there's the line on the top and the side, those three strokes. It kind of makes it like an encasement, like it's a place. So it's like at a location. And then the radical in the middle is actually the radical for Earth, right? Because you're on Earth. You're at so many different places on Earth, right? Here's our next sentence. Can you read it? Look at those children. The next character we're learning is the character for Y. And this is how you draw it. So that's Y. The next character we're learning is actually the most commonly used character in all of written Chinese. And it's close to the English word of. They don't necessarily use it in the same order or the same way as we do, but it's basically of. So the part on the left is actually the radical for white. So this is a good way to remember it. A ray of white light is made up of all other colors of light, right? It's made up of the whole spectrum. White is of all those other colors, right? And just a fun fact, the reason why this is so common in Chinese, so frequent, it's pretty much the equivalent of the English the. It's because they use it to make adjectives also, things like that. So you basically would attach this to anything. Of red means red, or of big would mean big, pretty much, like if you're looking at what they're actually saying, kinda. So great. The next character we're learning, I touched on last week in the English conversation. It's the character for ing. It's just a line with two smaller lines on the right side, and this is a totally original character I've made. There isn't a really clear exact match between the ing in English, like swimming, walking, drinking, and Chinese. They would actually often use the character for at with a verb to sort of express what we are saying. So if we're saying swimming, they would say at swim. So very good. The next character we're going to learn is the character for soup. And soup has a radical on the left side. Can you tell what it is? So that radical is for water, right? Because soup is like water. You're drinking soup. You're eating soup, a liquidy kind of thing, right? Here's our next sentence. Can you read it? Why does he have 6 paintings? Why does he have 6 paintings? Very good. Here's the next one. We have hands of love. We have hands of love. Very good. And the next sentence. What is the soup of the day? What is the soup of the day? From those, we're going to jump into some colors. So first, let's learn how to write color. The part on the left is going to be pronounced cull. It's going to have most of the meaning of color. And the part on the right is just going to be the It's going to be a suffix that we use for things like a shower or an opener, or here, a color. So this is how you draw red. And the part on the left is a radical for silk. So you can think of like really beautiful, luscious red silk, right? So great, that's red. This is the character for blue. And this has two radicals that are important. The radical on top is the radical for grass, right? It's just sort of like, you can look at it, the line is like a ground and then there's two pieces of grass growing out of it. And you think blue, grass, why is that? It's probably because, historically people perceive colors differently, and there was much less of a distinction between blue and green, so I think that's why. And then the part on the bottom, sort of like three rectangled wedge thing, that is the radical for a dish. The next character we're going to learn is the character for black. I think it kind of looks like a creepy alien, like he's like gonna waddle over to you and like, I don't know, do something. And what's interesting is this whole character, it's huge, can act as a radical in and of itself. So there's no point to break radicals into smaller parts, but the part on the bottom is another radical. And I would imagine historically it played a part in why they made this black. So the 4 dots on the bottom, those are actually the radical for fire, right? You can think of it as like embers shooting out of a fire. So black fire, that makes sense, right? There's a lot of soot and smoke and blackness from fire. So yeah, black fire. The next character we're learning, you should know because we learned the radical for it, and it's the character for white, right? Pretty simple. It's a sun with a little tiny tick on top. It's very good, that's white. Now let's do some easy sentences. What does this say? It says, I have a red one. I have a red one. What does this say? She has a blue one. She has a blue one. What does this say? They do not have black ones. They do not have black ones. And what does this say? What color is that? What color is that? Now we've come to the time in our lesson where I show you an actual Chinese sentence, and you try and decipher it. Can you? So if we were reading this in actual English Chinese characters, we would read soup white color, right? Soup white call of. Soup white cull of. And then there's one part at the end. You do see a question mark there, so you know it's a question. So soup white cull of. So yeah, it's saying, is the soup white? Remember, of makes it an adjective, right? So it's like white color, color of white. So so they would say white color of to mean just what we would say in English as white. And then they also need the question particle at the end, right? They always say ma, right, at the end of questions. So that's what that is, right next to the question mark. You'll see that there's a mouth radical, right, because you're asking a question. So yeah, so soup white color of question. Is the soup white? So this is what the sentence looks like in actual English. Very simple. Is the soup white? Thank you very much for sticking with me and grueling through that. I hope you stay tuned for the quiz and keep studying.